Hey everyone, it's Ron with another devlog. I thought I'd take you on my thought process as to how I make levels, because obviously I'm a master game designer. I never make any mistakes. Nope. Never. Absolutely never. Not one. So let's have a look at my to-do list from last week. It was just to make 3 to 4 more levels, and yeah, I kind of did it. I made like 2.75 levels? Hey, I'm counting that as a win. So let's get into my thought process and how I design them, and what's left to do. So something I think is quite important is to kind of visualize where the player is going to go in each level. So here you can see level 6, and I'm kind of thinking about where the player is going to go, how he snakes around to the exit, and level 7 is pretty similar. So again, you've got this kind of snaking around pattern, but on a much wider scale. So instead of going directly down, he's more going left to right, then up and down again, and then flowing through the rest of the level. And then level 8, which is almost finished but not quite, is even more like that, where there's a little chase section in the middle here, and then you go all the way down, and then you go up and then down and then up and then down as the player kind of moves through a gauntlet of obstacles. Another thing to think about is what kind of theme each level is going to have. So for levels 6 and 7, it's actually really easy because each of these things introduces new obstacles. So that new obstacle is the theme. So the theme of level 7, for example, is rolling rocks. They appear everywhere, they're triggered everywhere, the player hasn't seen them before, they chase you, so all of a sudden you've got this new thing that you constantly introduce to the player, and you can get away with it because you're teaching them about how this new mechanic works. So you want to expose it to them quite a bit to get them up to speed with how this particularly works. So for example here, the rock now actually reflects backwards, whereas every other time it's fallen down the central pit in this level, this time it bounced backwards, so to teach the player that that's what happens when a rock hits a wall, it goes backwards and forwards. The rest of these levels also have like an overarching theme, so levels 1 to 5 had the theme of ascending, whereas levels 6 to 10 have the theme of descending, because you have gone up the mountain and now you're coming down the mountain. So following that trend, the level theme for the next level was falling ledges, because the falling ledges were the new mechanic that I wanted to add in. And here you can see I'm trying to teach the player about not only how they work, but also how the rolling rocks from the previous level combine with the ledges in this level, and how the player may need to think on how they interact with one another. And then I introduced that theme of descent, which I mentioned earlier. And then I also reintroduced the falling platforms, and the rest of this level goes on pretty similarly to how it did before. There's just more difficulty, more things wrapped on top of each other, so now the player also has to deal with the rolling rocks and the platforms at the same time. And yeah, that's pretty much it. One of my commenters had a really interesting idea for destructible sections of floor. So once the player's gone over them, they're cracked, and then if they try to go on them again, they break, and then the player falls through the floor. I really like this idea because it's quite similar to something that's already there, but it's a twist on established mechanics. And I've also had an idea on how to incorporate it by having a kind of like ice tower, which encompasses not only this new obstacle, but also the theme of descent really nicely, because now the player will have to choose when to destroy the floor. So that leaves me with just one question: what about level 10? I don't really know what the theme or what the path is going to look like for level 10. It's the final descending level, it should be the hardest level in the game, but I'm not quite certain how to do that, what theme should be brought across. I'll have to give it some thought. So all that's left to do is just finish off the last 3 levels, 8, 9 and 10, and then the game will be done, quote unquote, at least in a super rough version. Then it's time to go back and add all kinds of visual effects, all kinds of audio cues, all kinds of like transition effects, and maybe tweak the second cutscene a lot more so that it's a bit more interesting, and add some extra tile sets and things like that. But in terms of content, the game will be done next week. As ever, thanks for watching.